These testimonials are representative of my or our experiences, but the exact results and experience will be unique and individual to each person. The information provided herein is not medical advice and is not intended to substitute for the advice of your personal physician or other healthcare providers. Welcome to The Beautiful Bag. This is your host, LeeAnne Hayden, cancer survivor, and more importantly, ostomy lifer. Each and every week, I'm going to be bringing a special guest or some inspiration for you and a few little stories along the way so that you can learn what life is like for us to be living in an ostomy and why we all think it's a beautiful bag. So listen in and let's get started. Well, hello, wonderful listeners of the Beautiful Bag podcast. Before we get started on this week's episode, I have something special to share with you. For the last 3 years, I've been partnered with Hollister Incorporated, and we have created a video that I believe you'll find helpful. The video titled, Get Support in the Ostomy Community, is a heartfelt exploration of the ways you can connect with like-minded individuals and find the support you deserve. It's packed with valuable insights and tips that can help you or someone you know navigate the ostomy community with confidence and resilience. Whether you're new to this journey or have been living with an ostomy for a while, this video is a reminder that you're not alone. We're here to support each other, and there are countless individuals who understand what you're going through. To watch this incredible video, head over to Hollister's YouTube channel to watch right after you finish listening to this episode. Let's continue to build our vibrant ostomy community together. I will also put the link in the show notes. So have a wonderful rest of your day. And here we go with this week's episode. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's The Beautiful Bag podcast. This week, I have a special guest that we did not physically meet at the UOA convention, but we both were there, Dr. John Heryer, and he is a colorectal surgeon, but also an ostomate. So this one's going to be definitely a different, but somewhat the same topic. Because he's going to share a little bit about his story, and then he's going to talk to us about, from the surgeon's point of view, and we're probably even going to jump into talking about some hernias and how to prevent them and what to do in those cases too. So Dr. John, and then I'm going to call you John for the rest of it. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. My presentation was the truth about hernias at the UOAA. Had audio visuals, and we'll do our best with the podcast without the audio visuals. But no, I was a colorectal surgeon for 20 years, and actually just celebrated my first stomaversity just before my presentation. So it was kind of a
well, happy Stomaversary. So 1 year. So yeah, congratulations. How's it feel?
Well, I liked myself before, but I have no regrets now because it changed my life. I will say the same thing that many people before me have said, is that it gave me my life back. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a old cliche that everybody says, but it really gave me my life back. So I have no regrets having I have ileostomy. I have no regrets because of ulcerative colitis. But no, I did not have the same transition that other people had, because I know people did very, very well with stomas. It's different from a surgeon standpoint, and I mentioned before that I think it's the colon god's retributions for all the colons I took out during my practice. I really believe so. But it was it's an experience, and attending the UOAA, I feel like I was among my people. I felt very, very at home, and it was a very good experience. And hernias are a problem that ostomates have, and unfortunately I did not realize how popular a topic it was. from a surgeon standpoint, we hate to talk about hernias. We don't like hernias because it's a complication. They're kind of boring to fix and sometimes very difficult to fix. But
so talk about that. So you're coming from, being a colorectal surgeon for 20 years, taking out colons. We were just talking about taking care of, how to take care of your stoma after. You're good at making them, right? You're good at taking out the colons. You're good.
I can make them. At the time, I did not know how to take care of them very well. I mean, I knew a little bit, but I did not know all the finesses that the wound ostomy nurses use.
Right. So what kind of finesses, what kind of things did you learn as a surgeon, now as an ostomate? What were some of the things that were important for you that you had to learn?
Well, it was just the mechanics of doing it. I've never done it before on yourself, and you have to be able to use one hand sometimes in the bag change, and you've got to be quick sometimes if you have an ileostomy. And you see a lot of inside of bathrooms that you've never seen before when you're on the road. And the other thing is you know where the good bathrooms are, like museums and art galleries, and there's certain gas stations you may not want to attend. But you learn things like that, and the techniques of changing the bag with the different products are concerned. You can use rings, you can use paste. I was aware of all that stuff, but there's such a choice. It was an interostomal therapist that really taught me both how to make stomas and number two, how to take care of them.
Right. And taking care of them is really the hard part, right? It's, what do you do with the irritation? We're just talking about, irritating skin and itchiness, and what do you do to take care of those? And you mentioned, Flonase. Don't forget Flonase. It's a steroid, guys. Just a little tip there from John. So now, when you were at UOAA, you said hernias. It was the largest topic. And I know you don't have your slides in front of you, but what were some, what is a hernia? And what are some complications that people in an ostomy go through with having a hernia?
Well, first of all, a hernia is a protrusion of part of your body into a space that it isn't supposed to be. The Cleveland Clinic has interesting definitions. When your insides poke outside, but that's what a hernia is. You can herniate your brain. I've never talked to anybody afterwards. If you have head trauma, you can have a herniated disc. You can have a hiatal hernia, which your stomach actually herniates past up to your diaphragm into your chest. The ostomates are most interested in abdominal, incisional hernias, and the peristomal hernias. The most common hernia is an inguinal hernia down by your groin. Most commonly in men, about 3 to 1 men to women. And inguinal hernias are most common on the average person, but at the UOAA, I think it's going to be abdominal and peristomal. And that's what everybody fears, and including myself. I think about it.
Right. And is it a fear? And I mean, I know I have an ostomy. I lift weights. I lift heavy weights. I've done everything. And people are always like, aren't you afraid of a hernia? And I'm like, no, I guess I don't think about it myself in my own head. Why are some people so afraid of it? Is it because it's difficult? One, it's painful, but is it a difficult surgery to reverse? Is it difficult to fix?
Well, we've got 2 points here. Got two ways we can go.
Right.
Let's go the prevention first.
Okay.
Let's go prevention first. Usually hernias occur because of intra-abdominal pressure. You are grunting and straining. I got an inguinal hernia when I was lifting a frozen bird bath moving. I don't strain like that anymore. Typically, you can lift heavy things, but you're better off using your arms and your legs. You really want to avoid abdominal straining. There are exercises that will strengthen your abdominal core. Okay. A lot of yoga will do that, and there's some other exercises on learning where your abdominal muscles are, and that. After my surgery, I can tell my story is that I didn't know I had abdominal muscles anymore. I had a robotic surgery, and they put air in your abdomen, they blow you up, and you're pregnant for 4 hours. I know women never have any sympathy, but because they're pregnant for 9 months.
Get over it. Get over it. We have to do it for 9 months.
Yeah, I get no sympathy. But on the other hand, my physical therapist I worked with knew what I was talking about, because she had to go back and do the exercises herself after her pregnancy. So there's pelvic tilts, and there's a lot of things you can do to strengthen your abdominal muscles. To do a plank or sit up immediately post-op, probably not a good idea, not recommended. Could you, once you get your abdominal muscles in back and geared up and toned up, you probably could do those things carefully, but immediately post-op, you don't do planks or sit up. You don't want to increase your intra-abdominal pressure, is what you don't want to do.
Right.
And I might add to belts may help prevent them. I do wear a belt. I feel more secure with it. I feel like I can move around a little bit more. Most people don't wear belts, but that's a choice. That was my choice. I feel better with a belt on, quite honestly, because I feel like I've got a little secure push pressure that I can move around more.
Exactly. Well, I wear Lululemon leggings that are high-waisted, and they just hold everything right in there. And when I don't have those, I do have a stealth belt. So I will wear my stealth belt. And then I'll put my other leggings over it. So there is some pressure, just holding it all nice and tight. And I have done lots of yoga, lots of yoga, lots of abdominal work. I've been in the fitness world for a long, long time. So that's why when I say I lift weights and I don't worry about it, I know it's because I've properly protected the core. And that does take, it takes time to do. And there are, like you said, there are small things that you can do to help strengthen your core, but definitely not right away. You have to give your body time to heal and rest. When you were going through, and what else in hernias are people, would you want to share with people about, having a hernia, what to do in that case, how to protect yourself? Again, you said, strengthening your core, but you have to wait, waiting, having a PT, you mentioned it yourself. You had a PT, a physical therapist that was helping you to do certain exercises. I think that's extremely important.
My situation, I had pre-sacral pain. My sacral iliac joint was painful. I couldn't walk more than a mile. I started walking 2-3 miles immediately post-op, but after about a mile, I started hurting. And the reason I hurt was because I had no abdominal support at the time. And the thing that the physical therapist worked with me a lot of them were yoga exercises with pelvic tilts and things with a bird. It's a bird dog. It's what it's called.
Bird dog. Yep.
With that strengthen your core. And I still do strengthening core exercises. I probably do more core exercises now than I have ever in my entire life.
Really?
I really exercise more.
Now we were talking, and again, bird dog is it's gentle. You don't even know you're using your abdominal muscles when you're doing a bird dog. It's not like holding a plank where you're like holding it and everything is nice and tight. It's definitely just a very gentle way to do it. So, as you've strengthened your core, you were a surgeon taking out colons. What were some of the major reasons over your 20 years of being a surgeon that people were having to end up in an ostomy? Was it more over the 20 years? Was it more Crohn's colitis or was it cancer? And have you seen a shift? I know that's a loaded question.
It was mixed. I can't favor one over the other. As far as colon cancer is concerned, I said the colorectal surgeons are very good at avoiding colostomies. We rarely do colostomies for colon cancer. We can go practically down to the hemorrhoids and hook the colon down there. It takes a while to get used to it because you've taken a lot of the storage capacity away. I've done it for Crohn's. I've done colon resections I've done small bowel resections for Crohn's too, but it's a whole different, it's a mix. It's a total mix.
Total mix. Yeah. Because I was asking that question because I think it must be because of this podcast and the people that I've met through it, where I used to always associate ostomy bags with cancer, right? Maybe it was just
and
it's not.
No.
Yeah.
No, I did not do a lot for cancer. I mean, it's when you have something right at the anal verge and down right in the rectum that you'll do that, or invading the prostate. I had a gentleman whose cancer was invading the prostate. We had to take both his bladder and rectum out.
Yeah.
And I might add, I saw him 15 years later when his wife, I won't say graduated, but retired from, it was a graduation, retired from Blue Cross and Blue Shield when I was working there. I couldn't believe seeing him again.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Because I remembered the surgery exactly, because I was thinking, this is a lot of work. I sure hope he does well. And 15 years later, I saw him.
That must be a great feeling as a surgeon to see someone that you knew, you basically saved their lives. I mean, that's been your role, is to save people's lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had said in the beginning of this that your ostomy, your ileostomy, gave you your life back.
Yes.
What have you been doing since? What gave you your life back?
Well, I was sick. I mean, I was really, really ill at the time. I'd gone through the biologics and I was getting complications of the biologics. I had CMV colitis, and I was getting ADH spikes. My sodium was going down. They took me off of Entyvio and put me on Remicade, industrial strength doses of Remicade. I read the black box warning of Remicade. I've already had some of the overgrowths that you get with biologics. And I said, I might get well with Remicade. In fact, my wife still thinks I probably should have pursued it, but I might get well with Remicade. It may be only temporary, but I might have an overgrowth of one of those other bugs. The fungus is what I'm really nervous about, because we don't treat them very well in medicine. We do treat them, but it's our drugs to treat fungal infections of the lung and that are very toxic. And I said, you know what? I don't want to be immunosuppressed the rest of my life, and you are. And this is COVID time I'm talking about when I'm going through all this. And I said, I don't want to be immunosuppressed the rest of my life. And I knew, and I'd seen people with ostomies who have normal lives.
Right.
And so I said, I knew what to do, but I didn't want to make the decision solely by myself. I did approach my internist and I asked him, what should I do? What would you recommend? He talked to my gastroenterologist. Actually, I had a rheumatologist at the time, because I had PMR, polymyalgia rheumatica, which really didn't exist because it was a extraintestinal manifestations of colitis. That's a whole different topic.
Whole other story.
And he talked to my gastroenterologist and all the people involved. And he says, I think it's a reasonable choice to have your colon out. And quite frankly, I've never regretted it.
And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the things that you've done over this last year with your colon, but you just said something that's really important, that a lot of people on the podcast need to hear. You are a colorectal surgeon. You know what you're going through. You know the procedure. You know all these things. You still asked for advice. You still asked for an opinion. Because a lot of people listening, and I've heard this story over and over, they sometimes don't ask, they don't know how to ask, they don't know the right questions, they know something's wrong. And then there's a lot of people on the other hand that they're out there and they're advocating for themselves and they're like, no, something's up, right? But I love that you, even though you knew, even though you still asked, what should I do? And you still looked for those recommendations for yourself.
Doctor takes care of himself as a fool for him. You cannot, and I don't like taking care of family members either, or close personal friends, because it clogs your process, your mental process, your thought process. Somebody needs to be objective, and I thought it was the right thing to do, but I wanted an objective opinion from my internist, who truly is objective. He's not a surgeon, he's not a surgeon, but he's not a gastroenterologist who would treat me till my colon rotted, I think. But he was truly objective, and he talked to all the parties involved. And I did, because I didn't want to be the only one on this decision, because you can't put it back. Once it's out, it's out.
Once it's gone, it's gone.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now, what has life been like for you? You said it gave you your life back. What has life been like for you over this last year? What are some of the things that you've done and experienced that you weren't able to, while you weren't feeling well?
Well, when I wasn't feeling well, I did travel like I have been doing. It wasn't much difference, except I didn't have to sit on park benches. I could walk. I could do 20,000 steps. That's a good day, 10,000 steps, that's a good goal. Now I rarely do less than 4 miles a day walking. I don't like to jog. And I couldn't do that before. I would peter out. I would get tired and I would have to sit down. I've got stamina now that I never had before. I was anemic and my proteins were down. I think the one thing about the colitis that really was most terrible was I was anorexic. I could not eat. I was nauseated all the time. It was the inflammation of the colon. I did not know that, and I couldn't get my prednisone down at the time. My gastroenterologist, I call a prednisone Nazi, excuse me for anybody else who's, I called a prednisone Nazi because he wanted to zero it out, but I could not get it down. It wasn't until I got my rectum out. It was a 2-stage procedure. It wasn't until I got my rectum out that I was able to completely get off prednisone. Wow. I could not get off prednisone because I would feel so terrible. And it was the only thing that was helping me. I think the Remicade might have helped me early on, and that got me well enough to have surgery. But the prednisone was the thing that got me through.
Right. Now, like you said, you were almost anorexic, like you couldn't keep your food down. It was nauseating to even eat. It's not like that now, is it?
Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, I've got to watch my weight. I've got my weight where I want it. After surgery, I was 151. I'm 171 now. After surgery, I go looking for 1,000-calorie meals.
Yeah.
And I'm serious. After surgery, I go looking for 1,000-calorie meals. And now I'm watching. I have a half a sandwich rather than a full sandwich. I can't have that ice cream bar that I used to eat. I can do it, but I don't want to gain weight. I mean, at one time I was 200 pounds and worked out with a trainer at the time and got down to 170s, 180s. Mm-hmm. And I like the 170s. My BMI is about 25 when I'm there. Okay. But no, that's what it did for me. The other thing I want to comment, I want to, this is important for the ostomates and the ones that have prednisone, have trouble getting off prednisone. the solution, I had a lot of trouble getting off prednisone. I had to go back up, come back down. The one thing that a pharmacist recommended to me, I talked to everybody when I was having trouble coming down off prednisone. Usually they taper 1 milligram a month. But if you taper a 0.5 milligram every 2 weeks, it makes a huge difference, because when you drop that 1 milligram immediately, you feel it in a couple of days. I don't think I was overly sensitive compared to other people. What I would do is like go to 3 and 4 milligrams. I would alternate 3 and 4 milligrams, which in other words, it gave me 3.5 milligrams for 2 weeks. And then I would come down to 3 milligrams for 2 weeks. I would alternate the higher dose. I mean, they make 0.5 milligram tablets of prednisone, but they're kind of hard, and they're small, and they're hard to split some. But I would alternate, and what would do is you would come down, you would go back and be rescued by the higher dosage, and then come down. I highly recommend that. That was recommended to me by a PharmD pharmacist that the physicians had no clue about that, because I talked to all the physicians involved, and my gastroenterologist wanted me to go to 0, and my fortunately rheumatologist was considerate with me. He always wanted to go back up, and I said no, I want to get off this stuff. And because I know what it does. The reason you want off of prednisone is the side effects. It makes you feel great, you feel like He-Man, but you have side effects, especially with bone density, and you'll end up having osteoporosis and broken bones when you get older.
Right. And you wanted to prevent that, right? You just, but
Yeah.
when you were talking about that, that almost reminded me of back in the fitness days when I would carb cycle. They would have us do that, like carb cycling, like have a 1/2 cup, have a 1/4 cup, 1/2 cup, 1/4 cup, like whatever it was, up and down. And then the next week it's like, okay, now you're at 3 ounces, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same type of a thing. But that's a great recommendation. Again, guys, check with your doctors first. I got to make sure I clarify that, right?
They won't go against it, because in a month you end up with the same result.
Right.
It's not written down. And let me tell you, I researched it. I researched how to taper prednisone everywhere. First of all, it's an art. And everybody goes differently, and it depends upon how long you've been on it. If you've been on it for 2 years, like I had been, you can't expect to go cold turkey right away. And I think that's, the gastroenterologist was new to me, and I think he didn't really realize my history. The rheumatologist was, but you can't. Not everybody can taper the same way, but I don't see any doctor who would ever, you certainly ask your doctor, but I don't think any doctor would ever object to tapering a 0.5 milligram every 2 weeks.
Right. Wow, those are great. That was a great tip. We've talked hernias, we've talked your story, some things that you've seen from surgeries. We've talked, prednisone. If there was, and I always ask this, and I really appreciate you being on here and sharing your story and sharing your knowledge with everybody. But if there was one thing that you would want to leave the audience with, what would that one thing be?
Embrace your new life. Surgeons don't do stomas because they like to. I mean, we don't like to do them. We do them to make people better, or to avert a complication. Sometimes a temporary stoma will be done to protect an anastomosis, where you've connected the bowel back together again. But surgeons don't do it for the fun of it. Just embrace your new life and enjoy your health. Actually, the one thing people don't realize is they don't appreciate good health until they lose it. And then they appreciate it. Mm-hmm. But when you get it back, you appreciate it even more.
Right? Don't you feel it's like, got this second chance at life. I've got this blessing. Yeah, I'm not gonna mess it up. I'm not gonna mess this up. Mm-hmm. Yep. So now what are you doing with your life going forward?
Well, actually, I've got goals as far as I've got a personal trainer I work with now.
Okay.
My goal is actually to be stronger than I was before I got sick. Retirement is a nasty word for me. I'm retired from being a professional musician. I'm retired from operating on people. I'm retired from insurance administration when I was vice president, medical director of Blue Cross. I am now an options trader, and I trade options for a living.
Okay.
And my background is business administration and mathematics, and it's a great mix, and it's a great life because I can a lot of flexibility. I can travel, I can walk, I can go to the store in the afternoon if I want to, exercise if I want to. Don't take off, but unfortunately, right now my wife is working on her PhD, and I'm homebound for a while. When she was working, I was a house husband. I was really proud of that. But she's taken those duties over, and I've been fired.
You've been fired. No more laundry for you.
Yeah, no more laundry. I can't do laundry anymore.
No more laundry for you. I will never say that to my husband. Whenever he wants to go do laundry, have at it.
But she doesn't let me in there.
Oh, that's funny.
And she doesn't let me in the kitchen either.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. So you have goals. So you're going to get stronger than you were before. You're trading, you're doing all kinds of new things with your life. I have to thank you again for coming on here and being a part of this journey and being part of the community. And thank you for sharing your knowledge. There was a lot, we talked about a lot of different things that people can do and how to take care of themselves and all of that. And John, I really, really appreciate you being on here with us this week.
Well, if I can help, I enjoy helping people.
I love that. I love that. And if anybody wanted to connect with you, if they had questions, how would they connect with you?
Well, what I did at the UOAA, I gave out my email address.
Okay.
Which is John, JOHN HERYER@gmail.com. I gave that out, and I have had a lot of requests for my slides. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's going to happen, but there's 2 tentative local UOAA groups that might want me to present for them. Those have not been formulated, but I may be presenting them again. So if the UOAA group hears about this, we could always present it on Zoom if you want to. It's kind of hard to just look at the slides by themselves. It's kind of hard to talk about hernias without the slides. It's very difficult because the hernias, the slides and the pictures tell it all. I don't have to say much when you see the picture of a hernia.
Right. You can see it and go, oh, that's what it is. So you know what? I know UAA listens to this podcast. So guys, if you're listening out, get Dr. John in and do a virtual. I think that's important. But again, thank you so much for being here. And guys, I will put his email address in the show notes. So if you want, you can click on that and get in contact with him as well. So thank you again so much for being here with us this week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us this week. If you enjoyed this podcast, get the behind the scenes at LeeAnneHayden.com/ostomy updates. And also, if you found this episode encouraging, please screenshot it and share it on Instagram. And don't forget to tag me and also the person who was on the episode with me. I occasionally will do special gifts for anyone who does do a screenshot and share it on Instagram or in your stories. Also, lastly, please go to Apple or Google, rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast to keep up with them every single week. I enjoy you guys. Thank you so much for being here.